need someone to enforce it at some point. So you can make a lot of great things here, but even though it still boils down to you want some kind of enforcement at some point, and that's where you actually would like them to do something for you.
How about the government of Zimbabwe? You see, it sounds funny, but Bitcoin's going to have a huge impact in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it may even be bigger there than here, at least at first. And I like to compare it to the cell phone system. You know, we had landlines here, and then eventually we had cell phones. And there were places in Southeast Asia where they never had landlines. It just went straight to cell phones. And even without having to install that infrastructure and having some FCC or whatever, they just put up some cell towers and boom, everyone has a cell phone. You know, and I think the same thing can happen in Africa. You know, we like to say that the average person today is Han Chinese, and he makes about 10 grand a year, and he has an Android phone, and he has no bank account. And that's what I think is going to be the big deal now, is we can leapfrog all these people in Africa and Asia with Android phones who don't necessarily use banks, and they don't necessarily have an effective regulatory body in their government. When you look at the inflation that they had in Zimbabwe, you know, I've seen these pictures where someone's buying 3 eggs for $100 billion in Zimbabwe, and I don't know how effective their financial regulation ever is going to be there until it's just software-based.
Yeah, we need to tell people in Zimbabwe that Bitcoin is less volatile than their currency.
We have these personal problems. Let's transition from that to a somewhat related topic. So Chris brought up earlier Bitcoin and tax, and a conversation you often see happening around Bitcoin is, what does this mean for income tax and other things that states rely on heavily? Do you think this is a real problem, or this technical approaches taxing Bitcoin? What are your views on this?
I think it's similar to what you have with cash in general. So I think you just need to handle it the same way.
Yeah, in other words, it's black market and nobody really knows what's going on, and just times a billion.
Question? Well, I'll tell you what I think about that. I think the income tax has been around for about 100 years or less. And governments have been around for thousands of years that I know about. And so, you know, it could be that Bitcoin could have some large implication for the income tax. But I don't think it necessarily has a large implication for tax in general. You know, we will still continue to have authorities. I heard that Ray Kurzweil was able to predict the downfall of the Soviet Union based on the invention of the video camera and the invention of the fax machine. Because a regime like that could not exist in the face of that kind of technology. But after the Soviet Union fell, you don't see like no government in Russia. They still have government in Russia. They have a different kind of government. They found a new equilibrium. And now they have like a 10% flat tax in Russia. And they're sort of laughing at us with our tax system, which is more politically based. But I can see that we could reach a new equilibrium, and that maybe an income tax won't be a feasible tax as it was in the 20th century. But I don't see that that means the end of tax. I mean, ultimately, a government can still shoot anyone walking out of a Walmart who hasn't paid their sales tax, or whatever enforcement measures they want to put into place. You still have cargo containers coming into ports, and physical items that people have to consume in order to stay alive. And so I don't think that any of that's going to change, although it might be some new structure to it.
I think the voluntary taxing is an interesting angle, because there are proposals for construction of cryptographic tax systems in which you're rewarded for reporting your transactions to the authorities. They cut you in on the tax take a little bit. So.
Are you working on any of those?
No. I've looked at how they might work, but the idea is, if there's something that costs $10 and there's a 20%, there's a 15% sales tax, then the price goes up by 20% because they know that you're going to report it and get the 5% back, right? So effectively it balances out in the price like that. Systems like this, where you have a very efficient financial system, like Bitcoin is. I think it opens up new possibilities for things that weren't previously possible, and also, yeah, it shuts down previous ways of work. Let's, Bitcoin and tax is only relevant if it becomes really widely used by many, many people. So let's talk a little bit about, Bitcoin and can it really, this topic of Bitcoin and scalability has been a very controversial topic, but is it really feasible for this to become the one world currency on a technical level? You guys want to?
Yeah, I think actually it is. It's of course one of the main issues with Bitcoin is you need to scale. And I think that's also what worries most of developers today, but in the long run to have things scalable in all kind of ways. And of course you can do different kind of things where you have all chains and transactions outside the chain, which will also happen, I think. But I think it's also possible to scale in many ways. There's many interesting things popping up these days about how to do it.
How many people in here were here when Dan Kaminsky was sitting over there during the security panel? Did you guys see him? He was really entertaining. I was laughing through a lot of this, but he had a quote which just blew my socks off. I don't want to quote it. He talked about scalability. He said his hard prediction was that there was a 0% chance that proof of work will survive the year. He said, this is my hard prediction.
There's an open bet on Twitter related to this.
Oh,
Check my Twitter.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he's offering 0% as the odds there, I'd like to take that bet myself. So. Yeah.
What was his reason for thinking he wouldn't succeed?
Well, he was talking about 51% type of things with the mining pools, and I refer you to the video and to things he's written.
0%, that is a harsh indictment.
Yes, I was shocked and amused. Many of us were, I'm sure.
All right, so Jeff, I know you thought about this a lot. What do you think about scalability?
Well, there's multiple scenarios, and my disclaimer ahead of time is that I'm not endorsing any of these. I'm just listing possibilities. One possibility is that the block limit size stays at 1 megabyte and it becomes a reserve currency. Another possibility is that the block size doesn't change and most people move to a merged mining currency where Bitcoin themselves you still have the hash power, but it's largely transfers between miners and the alt currency is the primary currency. There's increasing the block size to slowly catch up to transaction volume, and there are proposals, and I'm sure Mike can give us some details about just simply removing the block size and funding mining through assurance contracts. And so all of these are technically possible and feasible within the realm of Bitcoin's future. Off-chain transactions are one sort of, I don't want to say safety valve, but sort of one way that you can scale without putting too many transactions on the blockchain itself. And that's going to naturally fall out for microtransactions anyway. The transactions that are below the cost, below the economic value of the cost to send it across the network, there's still some economic value there. You just have to figure out how to capture it in an alternate system, such as off-chain transactions. Off-chain transactions simply means that one or more entities maintains a balance and then you settle up at the end of the day, or the end of the hour, or the end of the minute. So all of those are scalability possibilities, and every single one of those I listed could meet, what is the Visa number that everyone likes, 2,000, 10,000 transactions a second, something like that. And so it's just a question of what will the future look like and how will we get there, not will we get there. You want to talk a little bit more about like assurance contracts and infinite block size? Because that's your thing.
Well, I'm supposed to ask you questions.